Everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic.com back again with another What Happened At. And tonight we have been watching NXT TakeOver WarGames 2020, of course. And I don't know if it's showing up on video or not, but apologies if my eye's a little bit red. One of my contact lenses is irritating me. Or I was just crying at how emotional that main event was. But what happened in the main event, and indeed what happened in all of the matches, we're going to go through them right now because this is what happened at NXT TakeOver WarGames. And we start things off with one of the scheduled WarGames matches, the Women's Division's WarGames match with Team Shotzi taking on Team Candice. The heels come out first and they decide that Dakota Kai is going to start off the match. They get in their little cage at the side of the entrance as well, and then the babyface team come out, and indeed, as had been speculated, Shotzi Blackheart has built herself a new tank, but it's bigger and it's got a skull on the front. Oh, rock and roll. And we get a nice visual of all four teammates posing on the tank, and then, and I was surprised about this, Shotzi presses a button of some sort and the tank shoots a projectile all the way into the side of the WarGames cage, and Dakota Kai is like shocked by it and almost takes a bump. She's so scared, and I would have been as well. I would have absolutely crapped my pants. Shotzi wants to start the match, but Ember's like, no, I've got this. And Ember gets in the ring, and then her and Dakota Kai have a nice little back and forth for the first few minutes of the match. And then, because remember the baby faces have the advantage, which is interesting, we get the second member of Team Shotzi. And that turns out to be Shotzi herself. I thought she was going to be kept, waiting and frustrated until the very end. But no, she's the second in. She rushes down to ringside, gets a toolbox out and a crowbar, gets in the ring, but I don't think they are used immediately. Dakota is obviously getting beaten down 2-on-1, so of course, who should be next for the heel team but Raquel Gonzalez, her sidekick, her henchwoman, I suppose. Gonzalez gets in the ring, saves the day for Dakota, and then Rhea Ripley's the next one for the babyface team, and her and Raquel Gonzalez have a big stare down across the two rings, across the ropes in the middle. But it's all a distraction. Raquel wasn't actually going for Rhea, she was just catching her attention while Dakota Kai jumps her from behind. But Rhea Ripley's really strong and good at wrestling, so she doesn't even care. She fights them off, she opens the toolbox that was brought in earlier, gets a bloody mallet out, not a big comedy one, like what Seth Rollins used on The Fiend. No, not that at all. That would have been a travesty. She attacks Dakota with the mallet for a bit, but here comes Toni Storm. It's Toni time to even the odds once again, and she brings in just a big bundle of kendo sticks, continuing the weapons-based fun. Io Shirai is the last member of the babyface team out, and she runs down, she gets a couple of ladders, pushes them into the cage structure, but every time she tries to get in, Raquel Gonzalez is there at the door, booting her back out again, and Io's bumping into the barricade, trying to scramble back in. She can't get in the ring, she can't enter the match, because Raquel won't let her. This lasts all the way until Candice makes her entrance, the final entrant in the match. She comes down to ringside, and Io's still there, obviously, because she can't get in the ring, and she confronts her. Candice distracts her for a bit, and over from the crowd barrier comes Indy Hartwell with a chain wrapped around her fist to the back of Io's head, and Io is down. Candice gets in the ring, Indy Hartwell locks the door shut with the chain, and it doesn't seem apparent how Io's going to get into this match. Oh, she found a way to get in the match. All four heels surround Shotzi with kendo sticks and just beat her down, but when Candice goes to make the cover, the referee will not make the pinfall because Io's not in the ring yet. The match hasn't officially started, and then Io gets in the ring in spectacular fashion. While the camera's been focusing on the in-ring action, Io's been scaling the side of the cage. She gets on the top, she's got a trash can in her hands, she puts it over her own head and then leaps off onto the crowd of heels below. She took a blind dive from the top of the cage with the trash can over her head. That could so easily have gone very badly wrong. I cannot state enough how brave and scary this spot was. Insane stuff from Io Shirai, and because it's Io Shirai, obviously she nailed it. And now, spread out across a few minutes, we get several big impressive spots in quick succession. The first is Dakota Kai heading up to the top rope and diving off with a double foot stomp to Io Shirai with her head back in the trash can, and the trash can just crumples, and I'm like, how is Io going to get out? And she has to Dakota has to kind of let Io wriggle herself free because she is stuck inside the trash can for a few seconds. Ember Moon then comes off the top rope with the Eclipse to Dakota Kai, dropping her throat first over two upright chairs. That was maybe my favourite spot of the match. That and the Io Shirai trash can spot. That was so well executed, and Dakota sold it perfectly. Now it's Toni's turn to hit a big spot. She hits the Storm Zero on Ember Moon onto the trash can, but Io Shirai is up in time to just about save the day. We're approaching the end now as Shotzi Blackheart scales a ladder and jumps off onto Candice, but she's got a chair in her arms, so that kind of takes them both out of the match. They both took damage from that move, and we're down to Raquel Gonzalez for the heel team. She's still standing, and so is Io Shirai. So what's going to happen here then? Well, they end up on the turnbuckles that meet in the middle of the super double ring. And basically, Raquel Gonzalez gets the better of the NXT Women's Champion. Huge choke slam, or maybe a powerbomb, some kind of big leaping slam. Io Shirai tumbles through a ladder bridge placed across the bottom ropes, or maybe the middle ropes, I'm not quite sure. This spot was impressive, even though it seems to have been wiped from my memory. But it was good, trust me. And 1, 2, 3, that's it. The heels have won, despite a lot of people predicting that the babyfaces would actually win this match and Shotzi would get revenge for the destruction of her tank. No, it was the heel team that won, and Raquel Gonzalez has pinned the NXT Women's Champion. So that was a very enjoyable match. I saw Brian Alvarez complaining on Twitter about the booking of it because the heels won clean even though the babyfaces had the advantage, but I don't understand why he's so annoyed because they found a way around that with Io getting locked out of the cage for a while. I thought this match was really good. I don't quite see his problem. I think he was saying, in typical kind of Brian Alvarez exaggerated fashion, that this was one of the worst booking decisions, like an all-timer in NXT booking history. I don't really think so. Anyway, we followed that match up with another great one, but a great one in a very different kind of way. It's Tommaso Ciampa versus Timothy Thatcher in just normal singles action. This starts how you might expect it to, with a lot of stiff shots, a lot of grappling, a lot of submission attempts. It all looks very shoot style, and it's from two men who can do that very effectively, until Timothy Thatcher lands a massive European uppercut to Ciampa's throat, and commentary talk up how the throat was involved with Ciampa's neck surgery. He could possibly have a bit of a weakened or a fragile throat, and Thatcher presses the advantage working the throat. Very unique stuff, but it looks brutal and it works really well. Thatcher gets that standing front face lock, the guillotine, or the govit, I think Stu Bennett, or Wade Barrett, calls it on commentary, and Ciampa looks like he's fading, he's about to pass out, but then he runs and takes both himself and Thatcher through the ropes to the outside of the ring in desperation. Ciampa is now in control. He hits a bicycle knee strike to the side of Thatcher's head. Thatcher's ear just pops, and there's blood everywhere. It's grim. Hopefully he's okay. He seems fine to continue with the match, and Ciampa improvises by targeting the bleeding ear. Veteran instincts from the two there, using what's been given to them in the match. Very nice stuff, but also very grisly and visceral stuff, but it's wrestling, and sometimes blood can enhance things. And that does, in a weird way. I imagine it wasn't planned as the turning point of the match, but because it was so visually effective and memorable, it does kind of become the turning point of the match. And a little while later, Ciampa gets the draping DDT from the ropes to the canvas. It looks really stiff and effective as well, and he pins Thatcher and picks up the win. Now, a lot of people might be a bit disappointed because Ciampa's already established as one of the best in NXT ever. Does he need this win over a newer face like Timothy Thatcher? Also a beloved face from the indie scene as well. So at first I thought, oh, is this booking decision going to go over that well with the hardcore NXT audience? But then the end of the match gave a lot of people hope, I'd like to imagine, because we have both men sat on the apron, exhausted after a bit of a war of a match. No pun intended, WarGames. And then Ciampa kind of glares at Thatcher as he leaves, and Thatcher's walking all the way up the ramp backwards, glaring back at Ciampa. And I think this is going to lead to a rematch. They made that pretty clear, and I think that Timothy's probably going to win that one. Next up, we get the big strap match between Dexter Lumis and Cameron Grimes. Lumis comes out first, Grimes comes out second, and just looks weirdly confident considering that, well, Lumis has been absolutely having his life in this feud so far, and Grimes is supposed to be really scared of him. But he's having a great time on his way to the ring, looking uber cocky. But Grimes might be confident because he's got a bit of a plan. He's brought his own strap to the ring and refuses when the referee tries to get him to use the official match strap. And the referee goes, Dexter, do you have any problems with this? Lumis says nothing, so the ref throws the official strap out of the ring, and Grimes is ready and waiting with his own personal strap that he's brought already around his wrist. So when the referee goes to attach it to Lumis's wrist, Grimes then takes advantage, runs across the ring and beats him down. The match hasn't officially started yet. Lumis doesn't even have his wrist in the strap, and Grimes beats him down for a little while until Lumis gets back into things. So Lumis fights back, big Thez press in the ring, so Steve Austin, and then puts the strap over his own wrist, and finally the match can actually begin. Grimes now realizes that he's in over his head. He tries to run away, he tries to scale the fence and escape into the crowd, forgetting the very nature and the stipulation of the match because he's attached to Lumis, who yanks him back into a big uppercut. So Kane of him, actually. We've got Austin, we've got Kane, What's next? Next, I think he's paying homage to Al Snow because he's getting beaten up. Grimes puts the sack over his head, the strap was brought in, grabs the other strap, the official match strap, and starts whipping him on the back with that. But once again, it doesn't take too long before Loomis is back in control. The finish of the match isn't far from this point. It comes when Grimes has Loomis sat on a chair in the middle of the ring. He's looking for a chair-assisted cave-in, that running double stomp that he loves to use to end matches, often very quickly, but this match went quite long actually. Grimes runs, Loomis moves obviously, yanks the strap, Grimes is tripped, goes headfirst into the chair, turns back around, and Loomis gets the silence locked in, and Grimes has to tap out. And that's the match. I mean, once again, like the Ciampa Thatcher match, you could say that maybe the bolder booking decision would have been to have the other man win, to have Cameron Grimes in this case win the match. So, and I can't really think of a justifiable reason for that not happening here. Maybe this feud was just designed to get Loomis over, and maybe Grimes was kind of the sacrificial lamb in that regard. Next up, we go to ringside with Vic Joseph, obviously, and Wade Barrett, and the disembodied voice of Beth Phoenix, and Vic is hyping the WarGames playset, but as he's hyping it, the lights flicker, and we have a surprise, unplanned video package. Who could it be? Well, we don't find out by name, but from the imagery that was shown, and the dark nature of the video, and the tone, and the TikTok motif, the whole clock thing, I think we can work out that it's, oh, and there's a vulture as well, or is it a crow or a raven, some kind of evil bird, one of the evil ones. Can't quite remember which one it was. One of the evil ones, certainly. It's Karrion Kross, and he's probably coming back soon. Next up, we get the North American Championship match, one with a very unique dynamic, as the champion is obviously a huge underdog in the form of Leon Ruff, and the challengers are, you know, the two favourites for the match, in kayfabe terms at least, Damian Priest and Johnny Gargano. And Gargano and Priest have very different strategies here, so immediately Gargano shoves Priest out of the ring and tries to get a quick pinfall on Leon Ruff, and Ruff keeps on surviving and hanging on. Priest gets back in the ring and has a different sort of strategy. He's going for Gargano because he just doesn't see Ruff as relevant or a threat at all. What I would say to that, Damian, is that your logic is flawed and you should be trying to pin Leon Ruff, not Johnny Gargano, who, as we know, is the man who kicks out of, like, everything. They spill to the outside and Damian Priest hits the razor's edge on Leon Ruff into a section of crowd barrier, although it's not the crowd behind it. I think it's like the production team and refs and doctors and stuff. It's people, it's the crew who work there essentially. It's not the fans. Priest hits the razor's edge on Ruff into that crowd barrier. It falls over, and Ruff has to be taken to the back. Then we get a few minutes, or a few moments, not that long really, of Priest versus Gargano with Ruff nowhere in sight. He's in the back, but then he does his best CM Punk in 2011 impression, being brought back sooner than he should be into this match, specifically in this case. He dives over the top rope like Roman Reigns, big splash onto both men, and for a while is back in control, sort of. Well, back in control, he's never in control. He's in control for the first time ever in his career. Ruff gets a very near fall on Johnny Gargano, but Gargano gets back on top of the match. He ties Damian Priest's arms up in the ropes in the middle of the two rings. Priest is now trapped there, and Leon Ruff is once again isolated against Gargano. But again, Ruff gets a very near fall with a crucifix like Becky Lynch on Ronda Rousey at WrestleMania, but Gargano kicks out and gets the Gargano escape locked in. It looks like Ruff is about to tap, and Priest frees himself from the ropes and catches his hand just on the way down as the champ was about to submit. And it looks like Priest has the match won. He hits a big choke slam on Gargano, but here come three of those ghost faces to slow him down. No DQs and a triple threat, of course, but Priest doesn't care. He takes the three ghost faces out, and here come three more from the other side of the ring, so he takes them out as well. And while he's doing all of this, Gargano nearly gets pinned by Ruff back in the ring, but once again Priest saves the day. Priest goes to finish Gargano off once and for all and gets nailed in the back with a big metal pipe from a final ghost face man. He falls down, he's out of the match totally, and Gargano's like, yes mate, you're the best, you're my favourite of the ghostly lads. And while he's doing this, you know, Ruff rolls him up from behind and again almost pins him. This time Gargano's ready for it. He rolls out, super kick, one final beat, and Johnny Gargano is once again, I think a three-time by this point, North American champion. And as he celebrates on the ramp, he is joined by that ghost face man with the pipe. He unmasks and reveals that it's Austin Theory, who looks down the camera and says, "It was me, Austin. It was me all along, Austin." I see what you've done there, mate. Next up, just before the main event, we get the announcement of the next NXT special. Not a takeover, I think this was just one of the weekly shows. It's going to be on the 6th of January, and it's called New Year's evil. Oh. And finally, we get the big main event, the second WarGames match of the night, the Undisputed Era in special red attire, taking on the kings of NXT, Pat McAfee, Oney Lorcan, Danny Burch, and Pete Dunne. The first two men in the ring are Pete Dunne and Kyle O'Reilly, and they just have a good match between themselves for like 5 minutes. No complaints at all. Next up, it's Oney Lorcan, because remember, the heels have the advantage in this one. At first, it looks like it's going to be Pat, but then Lorcan's like, no, mate, I should go next. And Pat's like, yeah, fair enough, mate. And momentum swings back and forth, because next it's Bobby Fish, then it's Pat again. You think it's going to be Pat, and then Danny Burch is like, it's me next, mate. And Pat's like, yeah, probably, yeah. And Burch runs down, he gets a mystery bag out from under the ring and takes it in with him. And what is it? It's a pair of cricket bats. Cricket. England. Yes. The Times newspaper. Tea and biscuits. It's cricket bats. We get some cricket bat shots from the lads. Barrett on commentary gets to go, oh, he's hit him for 6. And then a little bit later on, Kyle O'Reilly gets a leg lock on Danny Burch. Burch taps out, but the match hasn't really started yet because not everyone's in the ring. Oh. Roderick Strong is next for the Undisputed Era, and finally, here comes Big Pat. He runs down to the ring and starts getting tables out from underneath. And there are 4 tables, and they're each adorned with a lovely spray-painted version of the Undisputed Era's logo and an individual name for each table: Fish, O'Reilly, Cole, and Strong. I see what he's done. And straight away, it looks like it's going to go off without a hitch, this plan to put each member through their own table, because Roderick Strong gets laid on his, and Pat with a Kurt Angle-esque moonsault to put him through it. Pat McAfee is like a freak athlete, man. Adam Cole is the final entrant in this match. He runs down and heads under the ring to get another weapon. I should point out at this point, in both WarGames matches, all the weapons were in the same little part of the apron. Maybe they could have spaced them out a little bit. I know it was more convenient that they were all there, but it makes me think that all of these people in both matches saw each other earlier in the day when they were stashing stuff, be like, oh, you got a toolbox there, oh, you got some custom tables, oh, that's nice. But Cole gets my favourite weapon in all of wrestling history ever. It's a Steve Blackman fire extinguisher. Well, not a Steve, it's a fire extinguisher, but they always remind me of Steve Blackman's hardcore title run. He sprays the heels in the eyes with it to get a momentary advantage, but then the heels take back over, and Pat has Cole isolated in one of the rings, clamps on the figure 4, and the rest of the heels are holding the rest of the Era back in the other ring. Tactics, strategy, you'd love to see it. But Cole manages to turn the tables, reverse the pressure, and roll over in the figure 4. And a little bit later on, I mean, this has obviously given the Era great hope, because they start putting the heels through the tables that were meant for them. And you imagine that Pat is just livid because all of his hard work was for no good. Late at night with that spray paint can. Dunne and Burch are laid on the Adam Cole table. Cole himself heads up top, leaps off it, and it doesn't break. So then Roddy Strong leaps off it, and finally it does. And, you know, they all go through it. Hooray, a big crash. It's quite funny. They worked it well, even though the table didn't break. They improvised well. They still managed to execute the spot in entertaining fashion. Pat is the next one to go through a table. Cole shoves him off the top rope, and he floats backwards like a beautiful, graceful, majestic bird and crashes through another table behind. I think the O'Reilly table is the one that Pat goes through. I don't know if you care, but I thought I'd have to write it down. It seemed significant at the time, I guess. Now the Undisputed Era take all the members of Pat's team, apart from Pat, and trap them between the ropes and the cage, and just pepper them with strikes and leaping knees and super kicks until all 3 are just limp, hanging against the ropes in the cage like that. And then they go over to the other ring, and they've got Pat on his own, and he's isolated, and this is the moment we've all been waiting for. Pat's going to get his comeuppance. And they beat him up for a little bit, and then Cole sets up for the big punt kick in revenge, of course. But then the other 3 members of Pat's team have recovered like really quickly, considering the amount of headshots they took just a few moments ago, and they just dive in and save him. I'm like, wow, these lads are really rock solid, hard boys. Oh god, no, why have I phrased it in that way? Then we get not a double down, not a triple down. There are 8 men in this match. We get an octuple down, as it dawns on me that this match has gone on for quite a long time. In the end, I think, I haven't had a look at the official time yet, but I think they mentioned it had passed the 45-minute mark, so it could be close to an hour by the end of this match. All the lads get up, they're all knackered, they all start brawling, they charge each other, but where's Pat? There's only 7 guys there. Pat has climbed the cage and he leaps off, beautiful front flip, everyone catches him all right. It's another big, amazing spot from Pat McAfee. He's got balls of steel Maybe not quite as big as Io Shirai's though from earlier, because that, I gotta mention it again, that trash can spot was insane. Not to take away from Pat though, because he had some obviously big standout moments in this match. Again, given his level of experience, it's unbelievable what he can do in the ring. But he's not involved in this next bit. We go all the way back to the start of the match, because the first two men to their feet to start fighting again are O'Reilly and Dunne. First two entrants in the match. Dunne breaks the fingers, bitter end to Kyle O'Reilly, 1-2, everyone else is down, there's no one in sight. Kyle kicks out, and I bet on that near fall so hard. That was so close. One of two very near falls in this match. We'll get to the second one in just a little bit. Cole and Pat start to have their little battle again. Cole goes to just smack him in the head with a steel chair, but Pat goes low. Meanwhile, in between the two rings, Bobby Fish has speared Danny Burch through the fish table. He's put him through his own table. That's ironic. Well done, Bobby Fish. You've avoided your fate, and you've turned the tables on your foe. I sound like a bloody dungeon master. What's going on? Meanwhile, Pat heads up to the middle rope. He is looking for the Panama Sunrise on Adam Cole. He leaps down straight into a super kick from Cole. He knew how to avoid his own signature move. He goes up looking for one of his own, and can Pat McAfee take that destroyer kind of bump? Yes, he absolutely can. Yes, 100%. He is down and out. 1-2. Pat McAfee kicks out. I was not expecting that at all. Cole now sets up for the running knee to the back of the head. He hits the ropes. Lorcan is over, takes the bullet for Pat McAfee, and then Pete Dunne's back in, bitter end to Adam Cole. It looks like it's over for a second, but Adam Cole's boys have got his back. The Undisputed Era are a united front, of course. They all jump in, save Adam Cole, and now we finally get to the finishing sequence. They hit that big high-low double team move, and then Kyle goes up to the side of the cage, leaps off, and it's like a concerto, but with a knee strike from the top rope onto Oney Lorcan, I think it is, who takes it. He gets pinned, and the Undisputed Era have won the match. And I think I was a little bit surprised actually, because I predicted the Undisputed Era would win, but that was a total heart over head decision. I think I actually, probably on balance, if I was being brutally honest, thought that the heels were going to win this match, because, you know, as Owen pointed out to me off camera even, Pat has not won a match yet. He lost that match to Cole, and while it was a great match that made him look good, he didn't win it, and now he's lost again. What's the point of this stable anymore? This was a very long match, an enjoyable one I thought, great stuff, but it was epic length, and also had to follow the original WarGames match, the first one of the night, so it had a lot to live up to, and I think it did, but obviously it was very draining to watch. It went on for a long time. But I can't fault the effort of anyone in this match, or indeed anyone on the whole show really. It was all really good stuff. And I'd heartily recommend watching it. I thought it was very good. Hopefully, just a side note, hopefully Oney Lorcan's okay. I saw Sean Ross Sapp tweet that he was being checked on in the ring after the match. He looked a bit bloodied up in the face. Hopefully he is absolutely fine. And I'm sure we'll keep you posted if more information arises. And that was NXT TakeOver WarGames 2020, with Pat McAfee losing in the main event, or being on the losing team, but not getting pinned himself and kicking out of a big finisher. And Cole was really surprised as well. So I'm interested to see what they do with him next, and I'm interested to see what they do with the Era next, because there were rumours that, or speculation I guess, that they were going to break up. This would be their last match together, but they won it. So a lot of things to think about as we head into next week, but that's it from me. Thank you very much for watching this video. That is what happened at NXT TakeOver WarGames. Thanks again for watching. Leave your thoughts and opinions in that comment section down below, and stay safe out there, stay positive as always, and I'll see you very soon.